3 Met Office amber warnings for snow are in place for today, tonight and into Friday morning. They are across parts of Northern Ireland, Wales and Northern England. Heavy snow dropping significant amounts, easily 4 to 8 centimetres of snow in Northern Ireland quite widely, and in these amber areas across Wales and Northern England.
Now, parts of the country are waking up to heavy snow, ice and blizzards. The bad weather has brought some roads to a standstill, including the M62 in the north of England.
Welcome to your national weather update. It is going to be a wintry week of weather, and we have a number of Met Office warnings in place. The snow showers coming in, you can see them here to the north of the UK. The northerly winds setting in. These showers on the radar are...
For once, Northumberland escaped fairly lightly from the Arctic blast that swept across the UK, with just a light dusting of snow. However, the forecast showed one final night of sub-zero temperatures and snowfall before spring could finally get going. So what else was there to do but to pack a bag and put the new hot tent to the test. Since my last outing, I've changed a few things in my setup. The main one being a new bag. I needed something with more space to fit everything in, and the Berghaus Vulcan 4 with its 100 litre capacity fits the bill perfectly. Getting all of my kit in was easy, and it feels incredibly rugged and well made. One of the things I love about Northumberland is that it's full of hidden gems. You only have to look at an Ordnance Survey map and you're spoilt for choice with medieval, Roman and Neolithic history dotted about all over the place. For example, this walk began at a rather gruesome Northumbrian curiosity, a gibbet where the body of William Winter was hung in chains for many years following his execution in Newcastle for the murder of Margaret Crozier in 1791. It was reminiscent of the gibbeting of border reivers in times gone by, when bodies were left hanging as a warning to others. The hot tent I'm using is the Iron Wall by One Tigris. This is a teepee design, which is obviously never going to be as stable in the wind, but it does offer a lot of space and headroom compared to my other tents. I've made a few improvements to the tent since my first outing. Firstly, I've replaced the tent pegs. One of these snapped and another one bent on my first outing just by pushing it into the ground. These seem to be of poor quality, but if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not too bothered, as I always replace the pegs on my tents with MSR mini groundhogs. These things are small, light and incredibly strong, and I highly recommend them. The second thing was that I've actually tied the guy lines on this time. I was surprised that these weren't already attached when I came to set the tent up last time, but I simply didn't have time to put them on before night fell. This time round, I did that at home before coming out, and I would definitely need it given the expected forecast. Another hidden gem was the site of this night's camp. Marked on the OS map as an earthwork, Manside is an Iron Age defended settlement situated in an elevated position on the eastern end of a ridge. The settlement was partially excavated in 1959, and this uncovered the foundations of 2 stone roundhouses within the interior and pieces of Roman pottery dated to the 2nd century AD. The settlement was clearly occupied in the Roman period, but the existence of a palisade and multiple ramparts suggest that the monument may have its origins in the prehistoric period immediately preceding the Roman invasion of Britain. This means that Northumbrians were living at this site at least 2,000 years ago, and I think that there's something pretty cool about that. Immediately outside the northeast corner of this settlement, there is the remains of a medieval cross reused as a boundary stone. Manside Cross is first mentioned in the Border Survey of 1604, when it's referred to as Man's Head. With temperatures of -4 predicted overnight, this would not only be a test of the hot tent setup, but also of my ability to gather firewood in the very damp and snow-covered landscape. To help me out, I brought with me my Baco Laplander folding saw, as well as a new purchase to help with the splitting of larger pieces of wood, the Gransfors Brooks mini hand hatchet. As night fell, I lit the stove and put on some food. I must admit that the fire did not get quite as hot as my previous camp, but it was at least hot enough to keep the cold at bay, cook some food and have a hot drink. The forecast for the next morning predicted winds of force 5 gusting force 8. This forecast had been fluctuating a lot during the week, and I prayed it would be wrong as I settled down for the night with the chimney towering over my tent. Given the conditions of my now exposed location, I didn't want to hang around, so it was an early rise and a quick exit, not even bothering with breakfast. As I packed away, in the back of my mind was the thought of how hard life must have been for those Iron Age Northumbrians living in such an exposed location, without all of the modern kit that we are lucky to enjoy today. The tent did okay in these winds. Yeah, it flapped about a bit in the wind, and it certainly wasn't as stable in conditions as my other geodesic tents are, but that's just the nature of the roomy TP design. All in all, it did survive, and so did the stove and chimney, so they definitely passed this test.